back to yet another Read Aloud. I hope you all are staying healthy and active. Today, before we dive right into our story, I want to do something fun with you all. I want to show you the cover page of my book. So are you all ready? Drum roll please. Ta-da! Today we're going to be reading Once Upon a Small Rhinoceros. Now, I want you all to take a minute to carefully look at the pictures on the page. Also, read the name of the book. Read it once, read it twice. What do you think this story is going to be about? Once upon a small rhinoceros. I think it could be about a fairy tale. You know, since many fairy tales begin with once upon a time. But you know, I don't know many fairy tales that have little rhinoceroses inside it. I hope you all have given this a thought. Well, there's only one way to find out what this story is all about. And it is by, yes, you're right, by reading. So without a further ado, let's get right to our story. Once Upon a Small Rhinoceros by Meg McKinlay, illustrated by Leila Rudge. Once Upon a Small Rhinoceros by Meg McKinlay, illustrated by Leila Rudge. Once there was a small rhinoceros who wanted to see the big world. Every day, boats sailed past on the nearby river. They brought smells and sights and sounds from far away lands. And the small rhinoceros dreamed. Around her, the other rhinoceros wallowed in the mud and bathed in the sun. They grazed on grass and rubbed their horns against trees. They did all the things that rhinoceroses do. From muddy riverbanks, the small rhinoceros watched the boats and sighed. "Don't you wish," she said, "that you could see the world?" A mud-wallowing rhinoceros snorted. "But this is the world. We have mud and grass and trees. We have everything a rhinoceros could possibly need." "Yes," said the small rhinoceros, "we do." A grass-grazing rhinoceros shook his head. "You're a rhinoceros. You belong here." "Yes," said the small rhinoceros, "that's true." But still, she dreamed, and the river flowed on, and the boats passed by. Until one day, a tree-scratching rhinoceros frowned. "You're a rhinoceros. You can't sail a boat." "Yes," said the small rhinoceros. "You're right." A sunbathing rhinoceros rolled his eyes. "You're a rhinoceros. You can't row or steer or read a map." "Yes," said the small rhinoceros. "I know." On the riverbank, all the mud-wallowing, grass-grazing, tree-scratching, sun-bathing rhinoceroses gathered in alarm. "Come back," they called. "It's dangerous. You will get lost." "Perhaps," said the small rhinoceros, and she waved as she sailed around the bend out of sight. Out on the ocean, the water was deep, dazzling blue. Sea spray stung the air and foam fizzed on the tips of the wave. The small rhinoceros trailed a hoof into the water and tasted salt. She stared dreamily down into the deep. During the day, fish flashed beside the boat, then sank far out of sight. At night, stars floated on the ocean's dark surface. The small rhinoceros watched the water, let the waves rock her to sleep, and she sailed on. Through the woolly wild winter and the smooth sweep of summer, to faraway lands and beyond. She saw mud and grass and trees. She saw spectacular sights with surprising smells and sounds. And more things than a rhinoceros could have ever imagined. And when she had seen all she could see, she turned homeward and set her sail to catch the wind. The other rhinoceroses were waiting just where she had left them, with their mud and grass and trees. She told them about the things she had seen and smelled and heard. "Wasn't it strange?" they asked. "Yes," said the small rhinoceros. "And scary?" "Sometimes. That's what we thought." They turned back to their mud and grass and trees. But then A soft voice spoke up. Did you get lost? Many times. And was it wonderful? Oh yes, said the small rhinoceros. It was. That's what I thought, said the even smaller rhinoceros. And she dreamed. And that brings us to the end of our story. Once upon a small rhinoceros. What a thought-provoking story that was. Have you heard of this word before? Thought-provoking? Well, thought-provoking means something that makes you think deeper and more meaningfully. What do you think of our little rhinoceros in the story? Why do you think the little rhinoceros wanted to travel the world and discover new things? She did this despite many of her friends and family members telling her not to, telling her that a rhinoceros's place is on that island. But did she listen? No. She went on her travels, on her adventures. However, were all of her adventures smooth sailing? Were they all comfortable and easy without any hardships? I don't think so. I am sure the little rhinoceros had to face certain hardships, certain troubles like getting lost, being scared, being lonely. Yes? But did that stop her from discovering new experiences? No. She took it as a challenge and went on with all of her adventures. And what happens at the end of our story? When our little rhinoceros comes back, she shares all her stories with all of her friends and family members. And did you notice that in the story, there was a smaller rhinoceros who is listening to the little rhinoceros more carefully, more attentively than the others. And at the end of our story, what does this small rhinoceros do? Yes, she too sets off on her very own set of adventures. So, for today's activity, I thought we could try our hand at a new technique called storyboarding. Storyboarding is basically drawing a few images or pictures that tell a story. You could compare it to a cartoon or a comic. However, in storyboarding, we do not use words. The images tell the story. So when we draw our images, make sure that when you look at your images, you can tell a story through them. You must be wondering, what are we going to storyboard about? Well, in our story, at the very end, the little rhinoceros sets off on her adventures. So, I thought we could create a sequel to our story. Now, do you know what is the meaning of the word sequel? Well, it simply means part 2. So, we are going to start our story with the little rhinoceros's adventures. Now, we are going to draw 5 images for our storyboarding activity. So, these 5 images are going to help us tell the story of the little rhinoceros and her adventure. To make this easier, I have thought of 5 points that you can keep in your mind while you draw your 5 images. First, being what she saw. Second, being what she heard. Third, being what she smelled. Fourth, being what she tasted. And fifth, being what she felt. So, let me show you what I have drawn for my storyboarding activity. Now remember children, this is only an example. You are not supposed to copy the same thing that I have done. Use your creativity and make sure that you do this activity. So, let me tell you what you will require for this activity. You will require a piece of paper, crayons, sketch pens or color pencils that are available to you. So, let me show you my activity. So, here is the activity that I have done. This is my storyboarding activity for this book. So, I have drawn my little rhinoceros in the middle of my paper, and I have taken the 5 senses, that is smelling, seeing, tasting, listening and feeling, and drawn them in 5 different circles. If you look over here, the little rhinoceros is in a forest smelling some flowers. Over here, the little rhinoceros is visiting a different place. Can you guess which place I have drawn by maybe looking at a famous monument? I have drawn my little rhinoceros trying out different kinds of food, be it a samosa, some chili, some pancakes or even pizza. I've drawn the little rhinoceros here listening to music, trying to play an instrument. Then I've drawn the little rhinoceros at a signpost with a question mark. What do you think that means? So maybe my little rhinoceros felt lost in her journeys at some point. Now remember, these are only examples and these are my creative ideas for this activity. Yours can, will and should be different from this. You need not draw it in circles. You do not have to draw the rhinoceros in the middle. You could just draw 5 squares or 5 circles and just draw your picture accordingly. It is completely and totally up to you. Use your creativity, imagination and self-expression while you do this activity. I hope you all try your hand at this activity. Remember, just like our small rhinoceros who was brave and courageous and followed her heart, I want you all to also be brave and courageous, especially with your drawings. Don't worry to make mistakes, especially with your drawings. Don't worry about making mistakes or trying to draw the most perfect picture. It is completely okay if your rhinoceros does not even look like a rhinoceros. It is your ideas and creativities that have to come through your picture. I am sure each and every one of you out there is more than capable of trying their hand out at this activity. Remember the term that we learned for this activity. It is called storyboarding. Well, I hope you all do try your hand at this activity, and if you do this activity, take a picture and email it to me at sharonschool.library@gmail.com. Until next time, see you.
Thank you for participating in the activity last week. Here are some of the images sent by students.